Thanks for joining us this hour for America's Vote 2024, the Iowa caucus. The countdown is getting closer with just 3 hours to go until voting starts, and all eyes are on Trump. We're heading over to the press center in Des Moines, Iowa, where Next Star Washington correspondent Mychael Martin is on the ground. Mychael, thanks so much for joining us.
Michael, thanks for having me. Well, while Donald Trump is expected to be the clear winner, there is certainly still a lot at stake in this race for second place. Tonight's results here in Iowa could determine if Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis have the momentum to take on Donald Trump in future primary states. After a nearly year of on-ground campaigning, town halls, and millions spent on ads, the 2024 campaign kicks into high gear here in Iowa.
Today is the day we make history.
On caucus day, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley stopped in a Des Moines diner to make a last-minute pitch.
We tune out the noise of the politicians and we raise the voices of Americans that say, we want a better day.
I'm going to be fighting for you.
In Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis urged his supporters to bundle up against the sub-zero temperatures and caucus for him.
I think people are anticipating less turnout, and I think our folks are fired up.
It's nasty out there.
Even Donald Trump seems not to be taking his position as frontrunner for granted. He, too, is urging his supporters to brave the cold.
You can't sit home. If you're sick as a dog, you sit down. Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it.
The latest polling has Trump leading. 48% of those in the survey say they plan to caucus for the former president, with Haley and DeSantis battling for a distant second place. And tonight, Iowans will gather at more than 750 sites across the state. The weather conditions, however, could present a challenge, and it's still unclear exactly who might benefit or hurt if some voters choose to not show up. For now, in Des Moines, Mychael Martin, back to you, Michael.
Hey, Mychael, let me ask you, there's a lot of anticipation today. It's sort of the waiting game. When can we actually start seeing results from the caucuses?
Well, we do know that we talked to one analyst at least who believes that because the former president is expected to have some sort of blowout performance, something that we know his campaign is banking on, they expect to see these results, at least for the former president, come in around 7:30. Now, the other candidates, because they are neck and neck, it's unclear how soon we'll be able to determine exactly who comes in at second place.
All right, Mychael Martin, thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you stay warm out there. All right, back and better than ever now in studio. We have Kevin Cirilli with The Hill. Kevin, we were talking before, and you told me you can glean a lot from a campaign's performance in Iowa.
Yeah.
Break that down for me.
Well, look, I think so often we talk about delegates, we talk about turnout. Did you hear it's cold in Iowa, Schnell?
A little bit. Sub-zero?
Everybody's talking about the cold. I don't know if you missed that, everybody. It's cold in Iowa. But there's something else here that I think a true political junkie like yourself, you and I were talking about this in the newsroom, which is that these candidates are CEOs. A campaign is a small business. Well, if you're Trump or Biden, it's a big business because it's worth a hefty chunk of change, several $1 million. And in fact, the last estimates I've seen, according to Open Secrets, means you have to raise something like $1 billion with a B in order to become president of the United States. But if you look at it through that apparatus, right, and you think of it as operating a small business, they have to organize and execute. And so there's a lot that comes with being president of the United States. For example, the staff that often travel with the candidate frequently end up working in 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with whomever ultimately wins. And so this is a really good case study, for lack of a better term, in how the candidate will actually lead and how they are able to mobilize, and also how the candidate's inner circle works with their own networks and each other in order to ultimately navigate the global challenges that will no doubt come with the president of the United States. There's something else. Can a candidate inspire? And we talk about how Trump is winning big in the Iowa caucus state, and according to Ann Seltzer, the Oracle of Iowa, her poll for the Des Moines Register and NBC News. But this enthusiasm, that's what I've really been focusing on, because that is the biggest unknown variable. Trump's supporters in Iowa, get this, 8 in 10 say that they are not going to vote for anybody else other than Trump. 8 in 10.
It's a large number.
It's a huge number.
It's huge.
Compare that, 88% of his supporters literally was just in the spreadsheet, in the crosstab. 88%. They're saying, Schnell, that they're very enthusiastically going to vote for him. So while Haley's gotten momentum, she hasn't gotten an enthusiasm bump in the Hawkeye state. Only 39% of folks who are backing Nikki Haley in Iowa amongst the Republicans are excited to vote for her. That says something.
And look, I mean, we make jokes about it, about the weather being like one of the biggest news points of today, but it's important because caucuses are all about turnout. So if you're more enthusiastic about your candidate, you're going to want to trudge out there in the snow and get to that caucus light.
Well, yeah, and you know, listen, something tells me the Iowans know how to deal with a shovel. Okay?
That's true.
I just got off the phone with a source close to former President Donald Trump, who's very closely talking with the boss, as they call him. And he said they're actually really concerned about the lack of attention that's going to be played on the Iowa caucus for folks who aren't a part of the base, but are a potential swing vote for Biden or Trump in a general election because of the wild card game in the NFL. This is when you look at a traditional Iowa caucus, which, by the way, only like 186,000 people in total.
Extremely small number.
It's a fraction of a fraction.
Extremely small number.
So when you look at the free advertising that a Haley or a DeSantis could get, if the entire country was actually focused on the caucus, on caucus night, it's a big, big moment of exposure and free advertising. But to be candid with you, even if Haley or DeSantis outperforms, most people are going to be watching the wild card game. I'm not even going to make a joke about the Philadelphia Eagles pulling off an upset against Tampa Bay. But in all actuality, that demographic, that NFL demographic is huge.
I think you may be watching the Eagles instead of there's also the caucuses.
Oh
tonight.
no, I can't get in trouble. Bob's watching.
I think you may be watching
Bob
the Eagles
Cusack,
instead.
you know. Yeah, no.
But wait, I want to
gotta be careful.
I want to say on this idea because we talk about there's so much focus that goes into Iowa because it's the first and it's the tone and it's the first time we see real results. But as you mentioned, 186,000 was the highest that we've seen. So is Iowa actually a bellwether or is it just first?
I think it can be a bellwether, especially for evangelical support. As the source just put to me, Trump is enjoying a lot of evangelical support. As we were talking about, he's taking credit for overturning Roe v. Wade. That helps him in a primary battle. Doesn't necessarily help him in a general election. The margin of victory, that is what I genuinely am going to be carefully tracking, because the margin of victory for Trump, if he beats the record, which was set back in 1988 before we were born, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So Bob Dole had that victory at 13 percentage points. He won and set the record for the Iowa caucus, biggest margin of victory. If Trump beats that, that is a huge sign of political muscle heading in later down the calendar, where the map, quite honestly, gets difficult for him in New Hampshire a little bit if Haley can pull off an upset, but the map gets easier for him as time goes on.
Let's talk about the second place contenders now. Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis. Obviously, tonight is important because they both want to beat each other. They want to get that second place finish. Talk about how important it is of how each of them finish to then continue on with the next primary states. Of course, New Hampshire is next. Ron DeSantis is flying over and going straight to South Carolina. I mean, talk about the importance of the second place finish for going forward.
I don't see how Ron DeSantis, if he doesn't get second place, I mean, I'm not a predictor.
He put everything into Iowa.
I mean, everything and then some. I mean, I don't see it. And he got a major blow earlier in losing Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, a Republican. Rubio's backing Trump. Now, in contrast to that, another high-profile endorsement my sources are telling me is going to be in Washington, D.C. this week. That's the former governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, a Republican who backed Nikki Haley over the weekend. Blink and you'll miss it. And so heading into New Hampshire, she's got Sununu and Hogan. That helps her, right? But for DeSantis, I mean, DeSantis, Vivek, I mean, you get a lot of retweets, but...
I mean, DeSantis even got the Kim Reynolds endorsement, which was seen as a big deal initially.
Was a big deal, but I don't see it. What do you think?
Listen, Ron DeSantis, again, he's put everything into this night. He's going to need to have a strong finish because if not Iowa, then where? I mean, when you put so much of your resources into one spot, and you even mentioned this is how you run a campaign. It's how you run your internal operation. Being that he put so much money and so many resources into this one state, if he can't have a strong finish, I think the question is going to be where else can he? Especially with New Hampshire next, and just seeing that Nikki Haley is doing well there. Chris Christie supporters likely go to Nikki Nikki Haley. If not Iowa, if not New Hampshire, people are going to be nudging him out of the way.
Well said. All we need is our pizza that's in the newsroom.
Exactly. This is how it works. This is how it works behind the scenes, everybody.
I just want pizza.
All right,
here.
Kevin Cirilli, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Anytime.
We'll see you all next hour with another update on America's Vote 2024.